I don't know what it is with new iPhones, but everything is bigger. Like, I literally have to hold this far away from my face or my head just looks massive. Anyway, today is just a normal Sunday. I'm doing this video because I think I need to be documenting my Xanax taper from like a more personal standpoint, where essentially I'm like this, I'm, you know, feels more tangible, I guess. So I essentially started tapering at the beginning of this year. Around January is when I really started going at it. And I was taking about 4 milligrams. I was prescribed 3, and then especially during the times where I had come off of alcohol, I was needing to get a 4th one from a family member who also has a prescription, who wasn't taking as many as they were getting. Not that I'm proud of that, but you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So then I decided to start tapering, and I tell myself I started at 4 milligrams because I did. I used to have a prescription for 4 milligrams. I used to take 4 milligrams. Like, that was what I was prescribed. I went back down to 3 because I started dating this guy a couple of years ago who, I think, though he didn't really share me too many details, had had his own bout with benzos in the past, but I think his was more recreational. I don't think he was ever getting them prescribed. So he would just constantly like go off about benzos and like, or Xanax and whatever, and like how bad it was and how bad it was for me and all that. So I'm actually grateful for that because it did take root in my head, and it was like one of the first times I was like, took a step back and was like, okay, let me think about this. This may not be the best thing that I'm doing. Because I always, you know, I used to tell people, I'm up here, you know, and normal people are down here. And when I take Xanax, it just brings me down to a normal person's level. There's some truth to that, but me medicating who I am, which is this more amped up, passionate person, was not healthy. Never was. I have literal nervous system damage. My blood sugar doesn't regulate properly a lot of the time. And I thought I was going crazy. And, you know, I was having a really hard time with it, especially when I cut a dose. Like when I cut, and then my body's readjusting after I cut. So what I first did was I started at 4 milligrams, like I said. I had kind of been down to 3, but then would go up to 4, so it was like, whatever. Anyway, I just cut out the 4th milligram when at the start of this year. And I was kind of falsely tricked into believing that the only withdrawal from Xanax I was going to have was just heightened anxiety. If only, dude. If only the only symptom from Xanax tapering was more anxiety. If that was the only symptom, dude, yeah, it would suck for some people more than others, but we would get through it a lot easier. That is not the only symptom. It completely rewires your brain, your gut, your nervous system, everything. So when you start cutting, your body has to frantically try to figure out how to maintain homeostasis. That's what your body's constantly trying to do. So every time you cut, when you've been using for a really long time, and I don't mean using like using as a drug addict, taking a medication that was prescribed to you by a doctor, you know, just from doing that, like, my blood sugar was dropping, hypoglycemic when I would get stressed, and a lot of times that would happen at work. So I couldn't figure it out for like the longest time, because a lot of the symptoms of hypoglycemia are very similar to symptoms you would have during a panic attack. So I'd go hypoglycemic and be like, I'm just having a panic attack, like, and have no idea that like my blood sugar was dropping. There's a history of diabetes in my family. My grandma had it, and because of that, and she was also an alcoholic, like I was, almost 1 year sober from alcohol, by the way. So I, have always been kind of like worried and like proactive when it comes to diabetes, because like I said, it's big in my family. And so I bought a blood glucose meter and I didn't really know, didn't know what was going on. And then one night at work, someone came up to me and like I was having one of those episodes where I went hypoglycemic, and I thought, oh, this is just my anxiety, like, and I had someone come up to me and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, no, like, I'm not feeling good, whatever. And I said, maybe, like, because, it's happened to other people at work. They worked a double, they skipped a meal. There was a girl I work with who was like shaking because it can happen to literally anyone if you don't eat. So they were like, oh, maybe it's low blood sugar. Brought me some orange juice, and I chugged it, and I felt better. And I thought, maybe there's something to this. So then I started testing myself, and finally I was able to test myself at work. Lo and behold, come to find out, my blood sugar, which would be, after I ate, let's say, this is still a little high. I'm not super hip on proper blood sugar levels after a meal and whatever, but I know that it would shoot up sometimes to like 140, 150. And the first night I went to work, ate a grilled cheese, took the test, went to work, and, it gets me jittery, it gets me anxious, it gets me stressed because it's work. So I was like, okay, I'm getting that feeling, let me test myself. I was in like the 80s, like the low 80s. Which isn't necessarily considered hypoglycemic yet, but I've also read online that hypoglycemia can be different for everyone because everyone's body is different. So while I'm not like textbook hypoglycemic, I'm still feeling symptoms similar to that because of how high my blood sugar is more normally. I'm not like pre-diabetic per se, but I'm kind of like what I like to consider pre-diabetic. Like, I'm about to be pre-diabetic. I'm pre-diabetes. Xanax can also lower blood sugar, and there's a doctor online who talked about it, said it's also like an anti-inflammatory. So part of the reason why you feel so shitty when you are tapering is because, or part of the reason you feel so bad when you are tapering is because your body is a lot more inflamed. So anyway, that's just kind of like a little background and a little update to where I'm at. And I'm going to be able to edit this later, so that's why I'm kind of taking a minute to think, because I can cut that part out. That's like what I was going to say next, I'm hopefully going to be able to do something with all this one day. I'm going to be able to take this video and all the stuff I've found and make a difference, because it's going to be really hard for me to let this die after I go through, I've already spent thousands of dollars trying to get better from this, when instead of medicating me with some, pharmaceutical, they could have been like, hey, what's your diet like? What do you eat on a regular basis? Oh, you mean you eat Eggo waffles for breakfast and you drink like 2 sodas every day, and maybe we could start there. But no, they don't ask those questions when you go to a psychiatrist. They don't ask those questions when you go to a dermatologist. Why? Because most of the problems we have could be fixed through proper diet and exercise and healthy living. But people don't want to hear that. They just want a quick fix, which a lot of times can come in the form of a pill. So in that regard, a lot of us are part to blame for all this. And it's sad. But, you know, now that we're waking up as a society and realizing this, you know, we can do something about it. I'm hoping that it blows up like the whole Sackler family OxyContin situation, because it's just as bad. I mean, I was talking to a friend about it, and she was like, yeah, but like, you know, a lot of people died from Oxy. A lot of people died from Xanax and Xanax withdrawal. I guarantee if you could have every single person come forward and tell their story, you would have every bit as many people, maybe not quite as many, maybe even more. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the statistics. I don't know the numbers, but you'd have plenty of people who have died because of this drug. So I'm going to figure out how to get off of it. I'm going to figure out how to heal from it. And I don't know that I'm ever going to let this die. I don't know if I'll write books, if I'll open up a center that offers people an affordable way to get off these meds, where there's, you know, different therapies and things you can do to help your body detoxify and get off of this crap. There's a place called the Alternative to Med Center in Arizona, and they treat people coming off benzos. I mean, it fits the name, Alternative to Med. They don't do it with medication. They do acupuncture. They do, you know, detox, and they have like meals. It's you know, supplements. Everything is natural, and it is 100% possible to do. But it's like $65,000 just to walk your foot on the ground there. So most of us poor people, are going to have to suffer through this on our own. That's just the unfortunate reality. Like I said, I would like to one day make some kind of center or place I could help other people going through this and raise awareness, and because this truly is it's an epidemic. It's a crime against humanity. It's sick. If they actually cared about our health, about our well-being, everything in this world would look a lot different. The odds are stacked against us. That's just 100% fact. So anyway, it is now the month of October. It's a couple days before Halloween, and I am on 2.25 milligrams. I had been trying to break the 1 milligram pill into a 0.25, and I was not accurately doing that, and it was giving me different doses every day, which was making me crazy, because you trying to take the 1 milligram pill, break it in half, which you can do because there's a slit in the pill, but if you try to break it in half again, then what happens is, you know, unless you have a scale that's super accurate, which I don't, you're probably getting, you know, 0.20 one day, 0.23, 0.25, 0.30. And to give your body random different amounts every day like that, it's going to make you go crazy. So I'm glad I finally figured that out. So that's helped a lot. Just getting my doctor to prescribe me a 0.25 milligram tablet, I was able to. And thank God for good doctors, okay? There's plenty of people who didn't have a doctor help them with this, and who literally believes that, like, you can get off these pills in a couple of weeks, and that anybody, you know, any issues you have aside from that are just you and your own personal anxiety. There's doctors who believe that. There's doctors who have taken their patients off of this medication cold turkey, or really, really fast, because they don't, and what they're doing to that person is they're torturing that person, and then gaslighting them by telling them, this is your fault. You did this. You have anxiety, and you didn't take them as prescribed, or whatever the case may be, even if they didn't take them as prescribed, which that does happen, obviously. I mean, there's people who are going to use and abuse everything. So if there's someone who never took it as prescribed, you know, maybe they need a different form of, or maybe a long-term rehab where they get slow tapered off. I don't know, but just cutting someone off from a benzo, they may not live through it. There's people who couldn't take the withdrawals, and, I heard the story of one lady walked in front of a moving train because the withdrawals are too much to take. Listen to a lady on the internet today say, essentially, if you were drinking alcohol every day for 15 years to cope with social anxiety, and then you suddenly stopped, that would look really messy, right? That'd be really bad. You'd get really sick. Psychiatric medication, there's really no difference. It's chemically altering your body. It's chemically altering your brain. And if you just one day try to stop, that's it's not going to look good. And what she was saying essentially is that she would like to see informed consent in the form of, if you take this medication regularly for multiple years, you may never be able to get off of it. Are you cool with that? Your body may physically never be able to get off of this medication. And the scary thing is, if you're like one of those people who's in a war zone, or let's say you were in those Maui fires or something like that, and you're somehow separated from your medication, what then? You just have a bunch of seizures and die because your body is literally dependent upon a medication that, if it didn't have in its system to begin with, would never have had to have it to stay alive? Like, the thought that if someone came and separated me from my medication, I could and would not only die, but die very, what's the right word? Very tragically and painfully, and like, it would be bad. Like, I would tell them, I'm going to be a mess of bodily fluids. Maybe in 24 hours or so. It's going to be coming out this end. It's coming out that end. I might seize, foam at the mouth, all that shit. If you're cool with that, then go ahead. Abduct me. But, I mean, in all seriousness, I never needed Xanax to begin with. I think what I needed back when I went to a psychiatrist the first time was, love from my father and spiritual healing. I didn't need a level 1 narcotic to take 3 times a day, every day, in addition to the copious amounts of alcohol I was drinking. Okay, so anyway, so that's where we're at today. Just kind of thinking on all of that, and, whatever. So I'm going to stay, I plan on staying at 2.25 through Christmas, because I need to work and save money. And then, in January, I plan on hitting it hard again. And, I'll taper from 2.25 to 2.0125 when you cut that 0.25 pill in half. Then I was going by 0.5s, but I think that's going to be too much. And then I started going by 0.25s, which might even still be too fast to taper now that I'm down to almost half the dose I started with. This is sick, and it's wrong, and something needs to be done about it. So let's do it, people. Let's do it.